Okay, this is zero force members. So zero force members are exactly what they sound like. They are members that do not support any load. They are there for stability and in case the load changes. Okay, so if we had a pinned connection right here, down this, okay, so if we were to look at this, you can see that A, we've got a force going up like this, FAE, and then we've got a force going over here like FAB. This is our X and this is our Y. So if you look at that, we know that the sum of the forces has to equal 0. And if you did the sum of the forces in the X equal to 0, all you'd have is FAB. And same thing with the sum of the Y. If you did sum of the forces in the Y equals 0, all you have is FAE. So both of those are zero force members. Now let's look at D. So let's say we had this, X, this. So FDC, FDE. Let's say that this is Y. Okay. And this right here is theta. Okay, so if we did the sum of the forces is equal to 0, in the Y direction, we'd have FDC times the sine of theta, which means that FDC has to equal 0. And then if we did the sum of the forces in the X direction equal to 0, we'd get FDE plus FDC cosine theta. We know that FDC is 0, so that means FDE has to equal 0. So from this we can get a general rule for two force members, is that if only two non-collinear members form a truss joint, and no external load or support reaction is applied, at the joint, then the two members must be zero load. So both of these fit that description. There are two non-collinear members and they form a truss joint, there's no external load and no support reaction, such that they were both zero load. Let's look at another example. If we had a rocker, and then we had like this up to point E, the force P applied. It's point D. This point C. This point A. All going to a pinned connection B. So if we looked at, let's say we look at joint D. So we've got FED, FDC, and FDA. Now this is a 90-degree angle, so let's call this X and this Y. So look at the sum of the forces in the X equal to 0, and the only thing there is FDA, such that FDA is equal to 0. And then you can do the sum of the forces in the Y equal to 0. We have FDC minus FED, such that FDC equals FED. So if you apply that same thing to joint C, right, we've got a collinear line, and then we have this other line in the, we could call this the Y, and then at 90 degrees the X. So FCA is the only thing that acts in the X direction. So AC is also a zero force member. So the general rule for this one is if three members form a truss joint for which two of the members are collinear, the third member is a zero force member, provided no external loads or reaction is applied at the joint. So both at D and at C we've got two collinear and a third non-collinear. And so that both AD and AC are going to be zero force members. And that's it for zero force members.